My fiancé male, 36 is telling me female, 28 not to do his laundry anymore because I brought up his messy boxers. For more context, he works. I am a son. We have 2 kids, female 5, female 2, and I make us extra money by making jewelry and selling it. Yesterday, he was off work. He started cleaning the fridge out. As he's cleaning it out, he's making comments to me like, "Look how gross this is. Come on, man. This has mold," and other passive-aggressive comments. I told him that the comments were making me feel like shit, and he said, "Good, that's the point." I understand how frustrated he is with old food in the fridge, how his money is being spent on the food, and that he's asked me for over 2 years to try better to keep the fridge cleaner. I do try, but things get shoved in the back, and I honestly just forget about checking the back of the fridge. I do wipe the fridge regularly. A lot of the food that gets pushed to the back are dinners that I make and leave for him, but he never eats when he comes home from work. He orders out instead, or eats snacks. Anyways, he was getting pissed off and started slamming things, and I decided to take the kids out so that no one had to deal with his negativity. The kids and I had been up since 5:30 yesterday and were having a good morning. I didn't want it ruined. I'm packing the kids up to get into the car, and he goes into the room and stays there, now upset that I didn't invite him out with us. We've had enough arguments that I figured it was best to give him some space. He texted me, telling me, "Fuck, you have a great day," and I told him that I understand the frustration with the food waste and messy fridge, but that he also lives here and can clean the fridge anytime, and that making comments to make me feel like shit isn't appropriate. He replies, still swearing at me and disregarding anything that I'm saying, and I say that I don't point out every disgusting thing that he does in the house because it isn't worth a fight and we both live here. He's still going on, and I just came out and said it. I've been keeping quiet about it for months. I say that I don't like cleaning up his cummy boxers, but I do. Now he's pissed. I imagine he's embarrassed, but that was the only way to get my point across while he's disregarding me. For more context, when our second kid came along, she was a rough newborn, aren't they all? She would just cry and scream inconsolably from 7-9/10 for the first 6-7 months of her life. For the first month, her father would stay in her room with me, and it was a mental relief to have that company while dealing with a new baby. She didn't like being held by him, but I appreciated the support. After that first month, he stopped offering his company and would instead say how he couldn't deal with the crying and would go into the bedroom and do his own thing while I dealt with the baby. I would often fall asleep with the baby, too tired to really get up and make it into our bedroom. Our older child was having a hard time adjusting to the new baby as well, and bedtime was a mess with her, too. So over time, we slept in separate rooms. I sleep in the kid's room. He has the bedroom to himself. Halfway through my pregnancy, we stopped having sex, and he admitted he found my growing belly unattractive. Our sexual lives never got back on track, even now, 2 years later. So yeah, he tends to jerk off. He doesn't do it sexually when I initiate it, and over time, I've had to realize that he's there actually, and you have heard that by way of about it on all the loading, so he would go down there anymore either. Pretty dead sex life. My 22-year-old boyfriend is mad that I used his phone to unfollow all female accounts on his Instagram after he told me to unfollow all my male friends and colleagues. He says it's not the same thing. Is this grounds for a breakup? I, female 22, have been seeing him for around 6 months, and we have recently moved in together. I'm not a big social media user, however, I do have an Instagram account that I check from time to time, maximum once or twice a month. Since I'm not really that into social media, I never even thought of adding him. All the people I follow are colleagues or friends who I've followed since they followed me years ago. Some of them are guys. The other day, he saw me open the Instagram app and got upset since he thought I was hiding the fact that I have an Instagram. I explained that I'm not hiding it, otherwise I wouldn't be browsing it with him sitting next to me. He then asked me why I wasn't following him then. I apologized and explained how I'm not very big on social media and didn't see it as a big deal, and that I don't even follow some of my closest family. I followed him regardless, after apologizing. Suddenly, he became completely distant that whole day. I asked him what was wrong by evening time, and he confronted me, telling me that he didn't like that my following was mostly men. He says it looks bad since people know that I'm his girlfriend. I tried to reason with him and explained that all of those male accounts are colleagues, and the reason why it's mostly males is because my job is very male-dominated. I also explained that I wasn't even the one who followed them first. I just returned it out of courtesy after they had followed me. He wasn't having it and threw a fit, explaining that it's still not okay. Eventually, I got so annoyed that I told him I was going to delete my account since I don't even use it. The following day, we were chilling, and I noticed him scrolling through his Instagram feed. I noticed multiple photos of females. My anger was brewing, but I stayed calm. He went to take a shower. Then I took his phone and checked his Instagram. Lo and behold, his following is filled with girls and even some IG models here and there. In my moment of rage, I spitefully unfollowed every single female account. He only noticed later that day when his little sister messaged him, asking him why he had unfollowed her. He became really angry with me. I told him if he wanted me to unfollow the men, then he should unfollow the women. He wasn't having it and said it's not the same thing since he was a man and he knew how men think. He said men who follow me see me as a potential fuck in the future if I break up with him. I asked him if that's how he felt about the females he followed, and he said no because he's not that kind of man, but that most men are like that. He says I was crazy, and we basically haven't had a civil conversation since then. My female, 32 husband male, 53 wants a divorce. How do I tell him I'm pregnant without coming off as manipulative? TW, mention of miscarriages so recently, my female, 32 husband male, 53 told me he wants a divorce. As a bit of background, my husband, we'll call him Jordan, was a family friend, and after a bit of messing around, I ended up pregnant with our daughter 14F. We ended up having a good old shotgun wedding, courtesy of my highly religious family. The topic of families came up afterwards, naturally, and we both made our stances clear. Jordan wants a big family and always has. I'm talking mother, father, 7 children and a dog type deal. Meanwhile, I wasn't super opposed to the idea of one, though I felt 7 was a bit much. Anyway, life goes on as we settle into newly married life. He gets a promotion and is working longer hours. We decide to quit my job to start caring for our daughter full-time so we can save more money on daycare costs. And when she turns 5 and starts kindergarten, we decide to start trying for another child. Well, roughly 2 years into this with no results, I get cancer. We put the family thing on hold, and I opted for treatment. My doctor did warn me that the chemo drugs I was on had a high risk of causing permanent changes to my fertility, but we decided to go through with it anyway. There was a rather scary period of time where it looked like treatment was making it worse, but I managed to pull through. Shortly after, me and Jordan get back to family planning. Unfortunately, at this time, it very much seemed like the infertility risk hit as I couldn't keep a pregnancy. The few times I did get pregnant usually ended with a miscarriage, with the one time I made it to full term ending in a stillbirth. Well, after a few months of this, he tells me that he's sick and tired of getting his hopes up only to be let down, and that if I get pregnant, I should just not tell him until I was 3/4 months along, since the risk of a miscarriage would go down significantly then. I agree and follow this rule. As of last month, I have noticed that Jordan has become distant. He takes longer shifts at work, he isn't as intimate with me anymore, and he pretty much ignores our daughter and me completely, while before he always made sure to at least greet and hug her, even if he was running a bit late. And then, about a week ago, I got served with divorce papers while he was at work. He refuses to tell me why he wants one and is insistent that it isn't a problem I can fix. The only problem is that I'm pregnant, and I was planning to tell him the news the day I was served, since I had passed the 4-month mark. Now, however, I'm worried about how to tell him. I have to disclose that I'm pregnant on the paperwork since that affects possible child support and custody. I don't want to lie to a judge, but I also want to tell him myself instead of having him find out through the court. My issue is that I am worried that if I tell him now, it'll look like I'm trying to manipulate him into canceling the divorce and forcing him to stay with me. But if I wait for it to be mentioned during the divorce, it'll look like I was trying to hide and trap him into paying more money for a child he won't be aware of. Can anyone help me out on the best way to tell him without it coming off this way? I appreciate any advice you can give me. TLDR, my female, 32 husband male, 53 wanted a big family, but I ended up infertile due to illness. He recently told me he wants a divorce, and I'm not sure how to tell him I'm pregnant without coming off like I want to manipulate him.